Hey, everybody. We have a great guest on the podcast today. We're going to be talking to Brandon Straka. He's the founder of the Walk Away campaign. He's a former liberal, and then he started this Twitter campaign and this Facebook video that went viral after the 2016 election. And then after the 2020 election, he participated in the deadly, fatal, treasonous Capitol insurrection. He was under house arrest for months while his trial played out. And
so we got cool jail stories.
Yes.
We got cool punching stories, cool insurrection stories.
Yep.
This interview has it all, really.
It is. Everything you want, this interview has it. Cool. So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out.
Have we started?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're rolling now. This is how we get into it.
Cool. Hey.
Yeah. And you were telling us a little bit. You had to get permission to come here to California to see us right now.
I did, yeah. So I'm on probation until 2025. Be fun. And part of my probation is I'm not allowed to leave the state where I reside, which currently is Nebraska, and I have to get permission from a probation officer to leave the state.
At least you got stuck in a really exciting state.
Yeah.
I did. It's good. Yeah. It's a big party hub in Nebraska. So, yeah.
Have you explored new parts of Nebraska since you're stuck there for a while?
Well, there's like cornfields on the east side, and then there's like cornfields on the west side, and it's amazing the difference in the corn, the texture and the quality. Yeah. So that's been really fun to discover, actually. Yeah.
And you no longer have an ankle monitor, right?
No. It was on this one.
It was on that foot?
Yeah.
Do you get to keep that as a souvenir when you're done with it?
No, they snip it, they cut it right off, and they take that right back.
Oh, man.
Sad. So they reuse them.
I think they reuse them. I think you get a fresh band.
A new band.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of gross.
It would be kind of gross. Yeah. But the device is pretty clunky and like it's sturdy, so I don't think they toss those away.
Yeah.
You know it's sturdy because you banged on it.
You tried.
Well, because it's like this thick. And I mean, it's so thick that I had to kind of learn what to do. Like when I would go to bed, I would turn it inward because I found that I sleep more like
that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in my life, waking life, I had to turn it outward so it wouldn't like rub against.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You have to.
And when you were wearing that, you were under house arrest at that time?
Yeah, 3 months.
And you couldn't leave your house?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So we were safe.
Except to do community service.
I see.
We were safe from you insurrecting the government during that 3 months.
Yeah, you were safe from me running around with my iPhone like this, trying to overthrow the government.
I know I slept easy during that 3 months. I don't know if you
knowing that all the violent, deadly insurrectionists were.
The misdemeanor insurrections, yes.
Now, so you got charged initially with felony, but then through your plea deal, it was you got charged then with a misdemeanor, right?
They originally charged me with 2 felonies and a misdemeanor. And then the plea deal, they dropped the felonies and stuck with the 1 misdemeanor. But they still I still confessed to everything that I was accused of doing in the felonies.
I see.
Yeah. Well, no, I can say they made me do it. I mean, because we requested that they not include that language in the plea deal because I personally objected to that language from the very beginning for very good reasons. But that's what they wanted. They don't care if I'm charged with a misdemeanor. They don't even care if I'm charged with a felony. What they want is the story to put out in the press. And they want that with every single person. That's what this whole thing is about. I mean, if you can put people in a position where they're so scared and traumatized and fearful about how the situation is going to go, unless you put them in a position where you say, I can make all your fears go away, just sign this piece of paper. By the way, we wrote it. The story's already written. It talks about what you thought, what you felt, what your motivations were, why you said the words that you said or didn't say. That's all written for you. And you sign that piece of paper and the bulk of your fears go away.
And now after you sign that plea deal, when you come out and you're able to do podcasts and interviews, Do you feel now like you're able to speak openly about it? Or are there things like you're like not supposed to say or not?
The things that I want to say the most, I cannot yet say.
Interesting.
Yeah. Someday I will.
Yeah.
And I think people know.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way, anyone who has followed me and knows my character and who knows the sound of my voice knows what's going on. Because in my case, it was all about words.
Yes.
I was never accused of any actions. I was never accused of breaking anything, stealing anything, harming anyone, touching anybody, assaulting anyone. They know I didn't do that. And so where they came after me was, you've got a crowd of thousands of people. Some of those people are very agitated and saying things that they probably shouldn't be saying. And when you're sitting there shooting a video and you're hearing dozens of voices, well, they claimed that they knew with certainty that it was my voice that they heard saying, but it puts me in this awkward position because even with what I was accused of, for anyone who doesn't know, my camera captured one moment and I want to be really clear because I wasn't where people were smashing windows or struggling with police officers. I did not witness any of that.
You weren't like next to Buffalo Guy with your arm around him.
No. He was pretty peaceful too.
You weren't stealing podiums.
Yeah. I mean, that poor guy. I mean,
you didn't even go in the Capitol building.
No, I didn't go. I didn't go inside the building. And I was
feet on Pelosi's desk.
No.
With your shoes that are so clean. I mean,
my shiny shoes.
Yeah.
No, I was on the east side of the building, outside, about 35 feet away from the doors. And when I arrived there, the doors were open. And people were saying that people are going inside. So I walked up the stairs and I filmed what I was seeing because I thought it was very strange. I mean, usually Trump supporters, you can't even get them to show up and hold a sign, for an event. So now suddenly people are like, we're going in. I'm like, that seems weird. So I'm standing there filming.
Are they wearing FBI-style glasses?
They were all wearing MAGA hats and FBI jackets. It was
Come on, fellow Trump
When
supporters.
the FBI came and raided your home, was there anywhere you're like, hey, I saw you at the Capitol?
I know you.
Hey again.
The guy that broke in.
Yeah, you were the one encouraging that attack on the officer. Yeah. So there's a moment in my video where an officer comes to the doorway of the Capitol and somebody grabs his shield away from him. And there's a voice from the crowd shouting, take it, take it. And the FBI said, that's you. You did that. And
that's what you had to admit and
in my plea, I signed a plea deal saying that I did that.
Now, in retrospect, since you protested outside the Capitol, do you think you should have just gone and protested out of private citizens' houses? Because the left seems to be okay
Should I have just gone to all the Supreme Court justices' homes?
That would have been okay.
Yeah. Well, it certainly would have been safer. And I mean, I wish I'd been wearing like a Biden-Harris shirt while I was at the Capitol. That might have helped too.
Yeah.
Now, were you also, during Trump's inauguration, when Trump got inaugurated, were you one of the guys that was standing there screaming at the sky because Trump was inaugurated?
Well, I was but I was crying on a Facebook Live. So I'd held
TikTok screaming in the car type thing. Yeah.
That was the origin of where your walk away movement is people, former Democrats leaving the Democratic Party on the left. And at the time Trump was inaugurated, you were upset by that, right?
Oh, like devastated.
Yeah.
Devastated. For so many reasons. I mean, first of all, I really was one of those people that Hillary deserves this. She's the most prepared candidate. And, I think I bought into sort of the myth and the narrative about Hillary Clinton, which is essentially, if the left-wing narrative is that she's this incredibly beleaguered woman who, if only she wasn't constantly being held back and suppressed by the men in her life and the men around her, or the man she was married to.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of things.
Yeah. And so I felt like she got really cheated, and I really wanted to see her become the first woman president.
She literally got cheated.
She did. She did. And then I was just shocked that the media that I trusted kept telling me that that she was going to win in a landslide. Donald Trump had a 3% chance of winning. And so I was shocked and scared and confused and outraged and all of these things. So I did what any healthy, sane person would do. I went on Facebook and started crying. and just let the world know how I was feeling about things.
And then I've heard this story a little bit, but if there's like a condensed version, then how did you kind of come to change your views. And then you had this walk away video that went viral
Right.
where you kind of explained your reasons for leaving the Democratic Party.
Yeah, well, I'd say the most condensed version is that I was super miserable after, from the moment Trump got elected for about 2 weeks. And I realized that the only way I was going to move past these feelings because I didn't want to feel this way for 4 years. And I honestly, 2 weeks later, I wasn't feeling any better than I was feeling on election day. And so I was like, how can I move past this? And I thought, well, I think the only way for me to move past this is to try to understand it. And you don't have to ever like Trump or anyone who voted for him, but maybe try to just ask them, be confrontational, like, why did you vote for him? And try to understand how the media got it so wrong. So I kind of went on a journey that started with those two questions. Why would anyone vote for Trump? And how did the media screw this up so badly? And I learned a lot of insane things that sort of opened my mind and blew my mind. But the most pivotal moment for me was when in January of 2017, right around the time he was about to take office, I got on Facebook. I guess I go to Facebook when I'm really feeling my feelings. And so I got on Facebook and I wrote, how I would never be able to understand how somebody could vote for a man who was capable of standing before a cheering crowd and mocking a reporter's disability. And do you guys remember that?
Oh yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah, right. and so somebody that I knew reached out to me and
I was
said,
going to do an impression.
So somebody, a Christian conservative who I've known my entire life reached out to me, and she actually used to be my babysitter, and she gets mad when I don't say her name. So her name is Diane. Diane reached out to me, and she...
Big shout out to Diane.
Big shout out, Diane.
You know who you are.
Walkway never would have happened without Diane. And Diane reached out to me and she said, I'm not trying to have a big fight with you. I'm just asking, have you seen this? And she sent me a link to a video. And the video was entitled something like, debunking that Trump mocked the disabled reporter. And it's this compilation of footage that shows that Donald Trump has done this voice and this gesture.
Does that when he's making fun of almost anyone.
Anyone who's flustered because they're caught in a lie or doing something shady or dishonest. And so...
And I think political discourse in general would be better if we all mocked people we disagree with. That
right.
I don't know what I'm saying.
He just uses disability to mock everyone.
Yes.
But that was like this awakening moment for me where because I really trusted CNN.
Yeah.
I really trusted these people, and they were the main kind of perpetrators of freezing that image and saying that Trump mocked the disabled reporter. And so then I saw clearly that he didn't. And I saw clearly, too, that they manipulated the way I felt about that. And so I was like, how often are they doing this and why? And so I started really falling into rabbit holes researching that. And what I discovered was that they're doing it all the time. And especially if you're black or brown or LGBT or whatever, they're really, really targeting these communities to make people feel like they're victimized and targeted and manipulating fear. And that made me really mad. So that's when I decided to create the video and create Walkaway.
And now I read before you were a political activist, you were a hairdresser. So who do you think is better, my or Kyle's hair and beard?
Any analysis?
What do you think of it?
Well, this is awkward. I just have to say it right in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can take it.
I have my vote.
Are you voting for yourself?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm not able to do the fuller beard like he does.
Yours is nice and trimmed around the edges.
You're sculpted nicely.
Yeah. All right. How about this? Rather than choose, why don't I tell you both something good about yourselves?
Sure. That's not as
sound?
fun, but we can do that.
All right. Well, I think you're going to know the answer when I give you your compliments.
Okay.
Okay. But, all right. So with yours, I like that.
You need me to turn around?
No, I got it. I got it. This is my
Do you want it
profession.
squared off or faded in the back?
I never know what the answer is.
I never see that part, so I don't ever care.
What's the right answer when they ask you square or round?
In the back, which is
I don't
better.
know what.
Not
to say.
square. It's
No.
too outdated
I always
now.
do square.
Well, let me see. Yeah, but that's not square.
Oh,
I think it's
they
square.
did
Yours
it
looks
wrong?
good.
Okay.
No, yours looks good.
Okay.
It should just be sort of natural. You should
Okay.
you should kind of create a
So
natural
next time
shape.
they ask square or rounded, I'll go neither natural, and they'll go, oh, you know.
Yes.
They'll be like, you know the right answer.
That will literally happen.
Nice.
They'll say, "Are you in the business?" Are you No, okay. So you have a very nice hair color, and I like that what you're doing is sort of like an homage to a very sort of old-fashioned, gentlemanly, almost old Hollywood kind of. You got the whole Errol Flynn kind of thing happening.
Oh.
It's very nice.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Your facial hair is not doing you any favors, really, honestly.
Oh, wow. And this was his nice version of it.
He said, "This is my. I'll say one nice thing."
No, but you're a handsome guy. You're a handsome
you, I
guy.
appreciate that,
It's not hurting you. I could take it or leave it. Honestly, I really could.
Now, when you say that, would you prefer more? Like if I do
I
something
would like
this
this more clean and trimmed. I think it's too long and a little unkempt, and I would like it to be a little more consistent.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if possible.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll work on that. Thank you.
That's absolutely fine.
Now critique me, and I can take if there's negatives.
Well, I kind of feel okay. So your hair looks great, and your facial hair looks great. All
right, great. Next question.
But I do feel like this is all set up to favor you. I think that you got kind of screwed because your hair is really gleaming, and I feel like the lighting.
So you feel like the lighting
There
is
a blue
more my kind of lighting here.
Light right here.
I'm actually willing to
Maybe
believe that you
this
came in
chair-
here and did all the lighting.
Interesting.
I do, but I think he spends more time on this.
I spend time on the hair in the morning. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I just.
Is that your natural hair color?
The hair color is natural. Yeah, I use product in it, but I've never dyed my hair any.
No highlights or anything.
No.
Yeah. No. It looks
Never
great.
did that.
Looks great.
How often do you get a haircut?
Probably once every 6 weeks ish,
Oh,
maybe.
okay. I'm like 4 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I just don't do it very much.
Do you go to a barber or?
I go to Floyd's barbershop.
I go to a
You do?
barber
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Okay.
How often do you sculpt and stuff? I just don't do it
The
often.
beard, I would say I trim the beard down maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks. And then I kind of trim the edges and clean it up maybe once every week or two.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Yeah.
What do we like about his hair?
What?
Oh,
I think his hair looks good.
does it? It looks. I think it's. I changed it. It's
Hold on, let
shorter
me
than
see
it
the
used to
back.
be.
Let me see if you went for the natural. Oh,
natural. It's
You did
natural.
the right thing back there.
Well, I'm a little bit of a control freak. So when I went to get my haircut 2-3 weeks ago, this girl was doing it, and she did the back, and she just was not hitting the mark. And she was using a handheld razor. And I was like, just give it to me. Just give it to me. And I literally took a handheld mirror and I turned around and I was going like this. And
gosh.
the salon manager is coming. She's like, why does your client have a razor blade? It's
I feel like
cutting
I
the
would-
back of his hair in a mirror. But I
I feel I would definitely slice
exa-
myself if I tried to do mirror back of the head with a straight
That would not
razor.
end
Yeah.
well, for sure.
Yeah.
it worked out.
So you were in jail. What's the difference between a shank and a shiv?
Shank.
Speaking of razors.
Yeah,
So-
I was going to do a transition there, but
I
you
heard you started.
Yes.
I was like, that was a better transition.
I don't know if I know for sure, but I believe that a shiv is basically any device that's carved into being like a knife or has like a sharp end. And I think that a shank is like a razor blade attached to something else.
Oh, okay.
I just made that up, but
That sounds right to me.
yeah.
You learned that in your 2 days. How many days were you in prison?
2.5.
2.5 days.
Yeah, and I
in
learned
prison.
stuff. Don't
How
act like
many-
I didn't learn
How many
stuff.
shivs did you make in your 2.5 days?
Well, I mean, so they put me in a lockdown, and I had a cellmate. So it was just I didn't have the opportunity to get into a big brawl or anything or
The opportunity.
take a bunch of guys out.
If it makes you feel any better during that time in LA, even if you weren't in prison, you were still on lockdown.
True. No, when I was actually being processed into the jail, they took me into this room for intake evaluation, and it's like everybody in the jail system is straight out of Central Casting. I mean, it's like the most horrifying. So they find the most terrifying people as you're going through this process, and the intake evaluation guy is this very military, no nonsense. I'm gonna remove all hope from you at this point. And I'm sitting down, and he starts asking me all these questions, and one of his questions was, so if a fight breaks out in the jail, are you able to defend yourself? And I was like, yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm this gay dude who's never been in trouble in my entire life, but sure, I'll go in there and take a bunch of people out. No, that was one of the scariest parts was when he said that to me, and I was like, no, I'm definitely not able to defend
Gay
myself.
people aren't able to defend themselves, typically?
Look, I mean, they put me up in this cell block where these people, they have eyes bulging out of their head and tattoos all over their faces. And I remember even when I got out of my cell to make a lawyer phone call, this probably isn't the kind of show where I should repeat certain language and words, right?
We'll
probably
dub
bleep
other
some,
words
but you
over
can
it.
feel
You
free,
can
yeah.
say it. Speak freely, and we'll censor it.
All right. Well, I don't need to, but I.
But we want you.
You do? Okay.
Please say the bad word.
All right.
We can't do it, so we like to have other people do it.
So I had an attorney phone call at one point, and everybody in my cell block was on lockdown. I mean, that was like what the block was. So, and I was one of the few white people in my cell block. So as I'm being walked past all of the doors, all the doors have vertical windows, like about like this, and they're so narrow that you have to you can only look out of one eye. So I just have like these singular eyes, bulging eyes staring at me as I'm walking down, and they're furious because I've gotten let out. And all of these guys are in there, and they're like, "What's up, motherfucker? Get out! Why are you letting that
bicycle?"
And they're literally threatening me. They're like, "When we get out of here, we're gonna." And so yeah, it was a little intimidating. Yeah, there were definitely moments where I felt like there were cozier places I could be.
You ever think any of those guys got out and they're still trying to track you down?
No, but I ran into my cellmate at Target.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was your cellmate? Someone that was also involved in the January 6th stuff? Or was it someone different?
Totally different. He was a 4-time repeat drug offender. It was his 4th time in. And his name was Eswaldo. And he was actually very, very nice to me. He was very understanding as I spent 2.5 days pacing back and forth between the door and my bed, freaking. I mean, I was the worst cellmate. All they had told me is that I was facing multiple felony charges for January 6th. Joe Biden had just become president 5 days before the Democrats had taken full power of the federal government. And
thank goodness everything got better after that.
Yeah, and thank goodness I'm the walk away from the Democratic Party guy too. Like that's a great place for me to be. And so yeah, no, I was in there, and I also didn't know what the felonies were. So I thought I was in there thinking to myself, they're going to charge me with like treason, terrorism, insurrection. I legitimately believed that I was never going to get out. I thought they're going to extradite me to DC. They're going to charge me with all of these things, and I mean, listen, you're not like in the healthiest state of mind when this happened. Yeah. So like in retrospect, some of these things actually seem a little hyperbolic and ridiculous, but I was considering if they were going to have me put to death, and so I was like, are they going to charge me with treason and to have me executed or at the very least I'm going to be spending the rest of my life in jail. And I really did believe that at the time. So, and no, they didn't, they told me that I kept saying, can I see a judge? And they said, no, they said because they picked me up in the middle of a blizzard. And so they said that the courts were closed because of the blizzard. I said, what about tomorrow? They said, we don't know. It depends on the weather. The courts won't reopen until the weather clears. And then they said, and even when the weather clears, there'll be a backlog of cases. It may be next week before you get to see a judge. And this was like on a Monday morning. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it could be a week or maybe 2 weeks before I even get to see a judge to find out what's going on. They don't know when, and I'm in lockdown. And honestly, I could have been okay if it weren't for the lockdown part. I mean, I really think that the solitary thing is so unbelievably cruel because I could hardly get through the time that I was in there. I mean, it was horrible. And if I had even been allowed to just wander around, because typically that's what happens. You're just in general population.
Oh, okay.
And
you can walk around and talk to the eyes through the hole.
Right. Well, they're out too. Like typically what would happen is that you're just wandering around like with people and you can either read a book or play games or go take a shower or whatever, but you're literally just stuck in this little concrete room with a toilet, a roommate, and a bunk bed.
Now, you were obviously in the news a lot for this in the media covered this January 6th thing.
They did?
Yeah, but where I remember, there was like a year before that, I was watching TV, I was online, and there was just some random article, and it said, man thrown off of American Airlines for not wearing a mask. And I remember I clicked on the story, and I was like, oh, I know him. It's like, what happened there? Because that happened to you also. Was that like a big ordeal at the time, or was that more sensationalized on the news
definitely.
than it was?
Yeah, by the way, thank you for bringing all this up. Your audience must think I'm a really great, upstanding person.
They're just fun stories.
I've also done some good things in my life, too. That's another example where I feel like I kind of got screwed. Because there was no mask mandate at that point on airplanes. It was optional. And so every time you would get on a plane at that point, they would make an announcement where they would say, please wear a mask to protect yourself and others. But they said, if you're unable to wear a mask, please be courteous and respectful to those who are unable to wear a mask. That's what they used to say on every flight. And I opted not to wear a mask ever. And on this one particular American Airlines flight, I was on there and the flight, they had already made that announcement, by the way. And the flight attendant came to me, one flight attendant. This whole thing stemmed from one masked, deranged Karen, like flight attendant. And she came up to me and she said, we can't take off until you put your mask on. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, this flight isn't taking off until you put on your mask. And I said, well, I'm not wearing a mask. And and she was like, well, you have to. And I said, no, I don't. And she said, yes, you do. It's a law. It's a law. And I was like, no, it's not a law. So we got into this debate. She was saying it's a federal law. She kept saying that. So it got kind of silly because it wasn't even really about the mask. We started arguing about whether or not it was a law. And I was like, it's not a federal law. And she was getting really agitated with me. But I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not just going to live in your fantasy world where this is a federal law suddenly when it's not a federal law. And so she started getting really frustrated with me and she left and she got the pilot. And the pilot came back and he's like, is there some sort of problem? And then it became a thing where by the time they were done, there were like 3 flight attendants, her and the pilot. There were 5 people around me. And I just said, this has turned into such a big thing. And I'm sorry. I was like, but what's driving me crazy here is no one's even asked me if I have a medical reason for not wearing a mask, if there's a purpose. And she goes, well, do you? And I said, you're not allowed to ask me that. And so at that point, they got really frustrated with me and they removed me from the flight. They just said, we're taking you off the plane. Well, because God loves me so much, there was a CNN reporter sitting next to me the entire time, and he recorded the entire thing. Yes. So I get taken off the plane. I talked to a manager who was there. I explained the whole thing about what had happened and her asking me if I had a medical condition. And the manager said, she was like, that shouldn't have happened. We're so sorry. It sounds like, you had a bad experience. She was like, let's just get you on another flight. And I said, yeah, cool. Sounds good. So they put me on another flight. No one asked me to wear a mask on the second flight. There were 0 problems. Everything was totally normal. While I was up in the plane, I had purchased Wi-Fi and I was working and I started getting messages saying, people sending me screenshots of CNN that was MAGA influencer Brandon Straka thrown off plane for not wearing a mask. This has now hit CNN and I'm like, oh my. So I landed at the place where I was going, and there was an American Airlines manager waiting for me, and he was super apologetic and nice, and he was just like, so sorry that you had some problems, and I said, don't worry about it, we're good, we're totally fine. And I thought that was the end of it, but the story blew up because of CNN, and then later that day, because the story blew up, American Airlines called me on the phone, and they said, you're permanently banned from flying on our airline until the mask mandate is lifted. Now the mask mandate is lifted, so I've reached out to American Airlines to say, hey, can I start flying again? And they said, well, we're now that the government is challenging the mask mandate, we're going to wait until there's a court ruling.
Oh man,
on that.
But would you really want to sue to fly American Airlines in the first place?
The thing is, they really do have the best rates.
Oh, okay.
Like it does. I get really angry, honestly, when I'm like booking a flight and I'm like, $200 cheaper on American.
Oh.
You could fly Spirit or Frontier or something.
I could also live.
You were in a prison cell. That's what I hear Spirit and Frontier are like.
Coming up next, for Babylon Bee subscribers.
Whatever they want,
I don't
but it's
think
not for me.
JFK Jr. is coming back from the dead to be Trump's vice president.
I don't think that like Madonna was in the bathtub signaling to Tom Hanks to get out of town because the
He's an
pedophile police are
agnostic.
coming.
Have you ever met Carmen?
I think I slept with him.
That's the funniest answer you ever had to that question.
I don't know if we can keep this in or not.
This has been another interview on the Babylon Bee from the dedicated team of certified fake news journalists you can trust here at the Babylon Bee, reminding you that someone out there knows something about Carmen, and we're going to find them.